Welcome to the Audacity Files. I'm Simone, your lead detective, investigating the mixed signals, situationships, and unanswered questions that make modern dating feel like an unsolved crime. In this podcast, I'll present each case using all the evidence I've gathered along the way, the conversations, the clues, the red flags I missed, and the lessons I learned. Together, maybe we can finally solve the mystery, or at least avoid making the same mistakes twice. Every week, we'll reopen another case. Sometimes the culprit is mixed signals, sometimes it's bad timing, wishful thinking, but every case brings us one step closer to solving the biggest mystery of all: why I keep ending up in the friend zone. So grab your detective's notebook and let's get started. Case file number 1. It was always you. Status: closed. Primary suspect: mixed signals from a hipster. Victims: me mostly. Verdict: still pending. Today's case ended with a grown man crying in my face telling me it was always you. The problem? He waited until after he had dated my friend, publicly rejected me, and I was leaving for New York to tell me. So the question is, if it was always me, why wasn't it always me? Let's open the file. Let's take it back to when I was 20 years old. What I believed was my first love turned out to be the case that changed everything. It shaped the way I viewed relationships and became the first file in a growing archive of confusion, heartbreak, and of course, audacity. It was a beautiful spring day in Houston, and my friends Tim and Casey came to pick me up to do our volunteer teaching work. We're outside now, so come on out whenever you're ready. That was the message I saw when I opened my phone. I got my bag and ran out the door to start the day. They had a minivan, so when the back door slid open, I saw someone who, little did I know, would change my life forever.
Hi, I'm Hank. It's nice to meet you.
I was not expecting to meet anyone new that day, let alone a super handsome guy. He was the typical cardigan sporting, skinny tie wearing hipster of 2011. I looked at Casey, my eyes widened, then back at Hank. Nice to meet you too. Something about him looked remotely familiar, but I knew I had never met him before. He's visiting from Lubbock, my friend said. Lubbock? I knew someone from there. Do you know Cruz? I think he's from Lubbock.
Yeah, that's my brother.
Now I could put the pieces together of why he looked familiar.
I do volunteer work in Lubbock, and I wanted to reach out and do more, so I asked my director if he knew of somewhere that needed more volunteer teachers. He said Houston, so I thought I would give it a try and see what it's like over here. It was an easy decision since my brother already lives here.
He was very obviously introverted, but I could tell he was a genuine guy and very witty. As the day went on, I learned more about him and his interests that were very similar to mine. He loved music, I loved music, and we were both hooked on John Mayer and Jason Mraz. He was interesting, so I was interested in him, but just as a person. I mean, we literally just met, and I didn't know if I would ever see him again after today. The next day, I went to my volunteering office, and he was there again. He seemed relieved to see me since I was the only one there that he had met before. My friends Brittany, Tammy, and Eva were there as well. The way that our volunteering works is we usually go in a group of 4 or 5. We ended up making a group of the 5 of us, and we went in his car. I was the navigator, and the 3 girls were in the back seat. We were together for like 5 hours that day, driving all over the city. And honestly, I felt like I got to see a lot of his quirks and a less curated version of himself. Somewhere along the way, the romantic attraction faded. Instead, we slipped into this easy friendship where we were always teasing each other, fake arguing about directions, and other completely ridiculous things. It felt less like flirting and more like the kind of banter you'd have with your best friend. Now, if you've ever found yourself wondering, wait, are we flirting or are we just really good friends? Congratulations, you've just stumbled into the first clue of today's investigation. A few months after this encounter, Hank moved to Houston, and we started spending a lot of time together. He was a musician, played the guitar, and sang really well. He would learn some of my favorite songs and then play them for me. I would learn his favorite meals and cook them for him. We made plans to always do our volunteer work together, which was around 3 days a week for multiple hours at a time. I would wake up early to meet him. He would come to my place and watch the kids I nannied with me. We ended up going out of our way to make sure that we were always around each other. Okay, detectives, let's review. He learned my favorite songs. I learned his favorite meals. We spent 3 days a week together. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what would you have thought? One day, we were assigned to different volunteer groups, and I could barely function without him. I was with one of my best friends, Teresa, and she was like, "You have got to snap out of it. This isn't healthy." I literally felt like I was gonna cry. Crazy, huh? And so I texted him, "How are you doing?"
I can barely breathe.
We made plans to meet for lunch, and then I felt normal again, just being in his presence, which I now recognize as limerence on both our parts, but then I viewed it as love, was all it took to calm me down. We couldn't go on like this. Just to give you some insight on me, I was the girl who was obsessed with love, weddings, rom-coms, and all things romance since I was like 11 years old. This was no secret. I had no issue with being unapologetically who I was, and I knew that I would get married someday. Especially when everyone tells you from childhood, "Oh, you're gonna be beating them off with a stick when you grow up," or "They're gonna be lined up down the street to marry you when you grow up." I made sure I was gonna be prepared whenever that day came. Long before any guys came around, I had a binder of wedding plans with cutouts of dresses, venues, color schemes, and bridesmaids' dresses. I felt like weddings were such an amazing time, and marriage was something really special that two people out of the billions on this earth could find each other and choose to spend the rest of their lives committed to one another and promising to love each other forever. So if I don't have my own wedding, I wanted to at least work in the industry. Okay, so back to our case file. One day, while we're riding in his car, he starts talking about the future and how he would like to be married one day. We were both still pretty young, so it would be difficult to make anything happen anytime soon because, let's be real, we weren't financially in a place to do anything besides just enjoy each other's company and wish for more. He started telling me about his guitar collection and how he would be willing to sell it to get me a ring. It was never specified what kind of ring this would be, but I only imagined one thing. A few moments later, we pulled up to what was my dream wedding venue. What are we doing here?
I thought you would want to take a look at it in person and see what it's like. I know you love this place.
20-year-old Simone? She had already picked out the bridesmaids' dresses. 34-year-old Simone? She's filing this under Exhibit A, Delusion. I really did like this venue from what I had seen online and in bridal books, but something inside me said we shouldn't go in. That made me realize I wanted to see a real future with him, and it seemed like he wanted one with me too. Okay, let's pause. Would you have thought he liked you? Would you have gone inside the wedding venue? Be honest, at this point, would you have bought a dress too?
My parents and younger sister are coming to town, and I really want to introduce them to you. Do you think your family would be available for us to do dinner together?
I felt like this was a step in the direction I had hoped for. I'll check with my family and let you know, but I don't see why not, I said. I spoke with my parents, and my dad had some work he really needed to do, so he couldn't come, but my mom was available. It felt like that dinner took forever to arrive because I was equal parts excited and terrified. My mind wouldn't stop racing. Will they like me? What if they don't approve of me? What if this changes everything? I kept replaying those questions over and over. A lot of those nerves came from where we lived. This was Texas, and let's just say race wasn't something you could always ignore. I'm a black girl from New Orleans, and his family is Mexican from Lubbock. In my mind, we were both minorities, so I hoped that would mean our families would understand each other. But I also knew that for some people, especially in older generations, there's still this unspoken expectation that their children should marry within their race. The funny thing is, Hank and I had never actually defined what we were. We hadn't had the "are we dating" conversation, and there certainly wasn't an official label. But meeting each other's families felt like such a significant step that I was convinced this was the moment everything would finally become clear. We pulled up to the restaurant and I was a ball of nerves. Mind you, my mom had no idea why. She knew I liked him and we spent a lot of time together, but had no clue that I was in as deep as I was. I was always very open with my parents about people I was interested in. This time, for some reason, I felt like it was so obvious, so I didn't need to say anything to them. But boy, was I wrong. My mom and I walked into the restaurant, and his family was already there waiting for us. His dad was basically an older salt and pepper version of Hank, handsome, warm, and with the kindest eyes. His brother already knew me, so he greeted me with this huge smile that instantly made me feel welcome. Then I met his younger sister. We were only 2 years apart, and she'd already heard so much about me, and within minutes we were chatting like we'd known each other forever. I remember thinking, okay, this is actually going really well. And then I met his mom. Let's just say I was not the woman she had envisioned for her son. How do I know? Because she made absolutely no effort to hide it. Every chance she got, she brought up my friend Brittany and talked about how wonderful she was. If Hank complimented me, somehow the conversation immediately turned into, well, Brittany. It was like we were in an unspoken competition that I didn't even know I had entered. The whole table could feel the awkwardness. Thankfully, Hank's dad kept jumping in to talk about all the things Hank had shared with him about me over the past few months. How much he enjoyed spending time with me and how I brought out a happier side of him. Meanwhile, my mom and his dad were getting along really well. Now, if there's one thing we should know about my mom, it's this. She does not play when it comes to her kids. Every little snarky comment his mom made, my mom was ready to shut it down. She wasn't rude, but she wasn't about to let me sit there and be picked apart either. The one person I kept waiting to hear from was Hank, and he never said a word. After the dinner, we talked, and he said he was close to his mom and how he doesn't want to disappoint her and wants to have her blessing and support in whatever decisions he makes. I understand that. I mean, I want my parents to like any of my potential partners as well, but I also know that my parents love me enough and want me to be happy with whoever it is I choose, as long as they truly love me. As the days and weeks went by, I felt like things got a bit distant and awkward between us. Then one day, Brittany asked if we could chat. Honestly, Brittany was one of my closest friends at the time. We used to hang out every week and do dinner together often. When she asked to chat, I thought nothing of it. I remember this conversation as clear as day. We were sitting in her car, and it was raining.
You know, Simone, I have an apartment, a stable job, and I'm 26. I'm in a much better position to get married than you are, so I'm going to give it my all and see what happens.
I was a little confused because I had no idea what she was referring to and why she suddenly felt the need to drop her stats on me. Okay, well, I hope you find someone.
I have found someone, and it's Hank.
Well, that took me completely by surprise. As I mentioned before, she was my close friend, so she already knew about everything between me and Hank. I had no clue what was going on. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to give it my all and show him how great of a match I can be for him, and I really think we could work out.
Brittany was pretty, confident, model-esque in her tall stature, had gorgeous ringlets in her hair, and was very used to getting her way. Honestly, we haven't had any conversations about being in a relationship or anything, but we do have an undeniable connection that I'm sure you can see, otherwise we wouldn't be having this conversation. You know what, Brittany? If you think you can take Hank, then that means he was never mine to start with. Have at it, and I hope you find what you're looking for. I got out of her car and sprinted through the rain to my own. By the time I climbed inside my car, I was completely soaked, and for once, I was grateful for the rain because it hid the tears streaming down my face. As I drove home, I was in complete shock. I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that someone I'd considered one of my closest friends for years could suddenly do something like this. It felt like the ground had shifted beneath me. Now, to be fair, Hank and I weren't officially together, We had never put a label on whatever this was, and things between us had already started to feel a little uncertain. But after everything we'd shared, I couldn't help but wonder, what happens now? Okay, detectives, that's all for today. What do you think is going to happen next in part 2 of Case 1, It Was Always You? Do you think that Brittany and Hank are actually going to get together? Do you think Hank and I ever reconciled? Stay tuned. It's all coming up next in the Audacity Files.